Righty then, Manchester United have got a monumental summer window coming up upon us. And I thought I'd do an easy video where you guys can join in as well with this one. So wait to the end and then give me your opinions on it. But as the title says, 5 to keep, 5 to sell, and 3 to buy. Now, of course, we're not just going to keep 5 players because you need more than that. But there's 5 that I think you have to keep no matter what. Now, I think there's a lot of considerations with the squad. And you might sell more than 5 and you might keep more than 5. But ultimately, these are the must keep, the must sells, and the must buys. So the keeps, I think the obvious ones are Onana. We'll start there. He stepped up in the second half of the season, even though I thought a lot of the Champions League aside, because there was mistakes in the Champions League. But I thought in the league, pretty consistent performer. Not seen anywhere near as much of the transformative playing out ability that I would hope to have seen. We've seen him start like 3 attacks from having the ball, which we saw a lot of in pre-season. We just haven't seen it in the season. Obviously, he got like the pre-assist, if you like, playing the ball to Bruno before he knocked it down for Marcus in the derby. But that was something that I identified watching him last season and in pre-season, and you go, wow. Oh, yes, please, like, I want that in the team. Just haven't seen enough of that with him. There has been some other distribution that's been really good as well. And I would argue he's been a little bit shakier than we would hope, but he's had so many shots to deal with. You know, the save percentage that he's got this season is absolutely frightening. And I certainly think he's far from any sort of weak link in the Manchester United side. So he's an absolute must-keep for me. Number 2, Lisandro Martinez. Probably the biggest keep on this list. Probably the closest to a genuine world-class player that United have got. Him coming out of the squad has been the major factor in the derailment of the entire season. And the proof's in the pudding, right? He came back very temporarily and we went on an undefeated run of games. And the second that he stepped back out, we fell to pieces. He uses confidence. He uses composure. I think he makes players around him better, which is an excellent trait for someone to have. And he's only 26, which means if he can shake off the injuries, we might have Martinez at the club for years to come. And he's a World Cup winner, right? People are saying it's Messi, but let's be real. It was, how long did he play? About 15 minutes? Realistically, it was Martinez that won that World Cup, right? You build a team around players like him. And for me, he is Manchester United's captain. He just don't wear the armband. Number 3, no surprises here, I don't think. Kobbie Mainoo. And biggest surprise of this season, he's become undroppable. And I think people are just like so excited about what he might become. He's one of the first names on a team sheet at the moment, no matter the fixture. Yeah, I think, you know, we might have even rested him ahead of the derby. So what does that tell you about an 18-year-old? You might get 15 years of first-team service out of him. And if he reaches anywhere near the potential ceiling that he's got, you've got a genuine generational talent in the team. I just think he needs a partner that's going to sit and allow him to be the more progressive of a 2 pair of 6s. Because I think he could play as a 6. And I think he'd do quite well as a 6. But I think you get more out of him by seeing him cover the whole pitch rather than just sort of locking off a defensive kind of area of the pitch. Number 4, Højlund. Probably no surprise in this one, I think. There were some doubts, mostly online, I would say, and on TalkSport. But there weren't really any doubts from anyone that was watching him because he was doing all the right things. He just wasn't getting the ball. And we all said, as soon as we start passing him the ball, he's going to start scoring. Well, we didn't even start passing him the ball, and he still started scoring. So he's a must-keep. He has scored goals for us this season. I think if you create a better football team, he will be the one who looks like he's benefited the most, even though his game probably isn't going to change too much. He's just going to get more opportunities. And if he gets more opportunities, he knows where the back of the net is, and he will put the ball in there. And then the last one, some of you aren't going to agree with. And some of you are going to question why it's not other people, and that's fine. And I'll explain it. I've gone with Bruno. And I've gone with Bruno because he is our captain. And even though I said I think Martinez is truly our captain, I think what Bruno offers for the team is underrated. I think he cares deeply for the team. I also think the sheer number of chances he created isn't easy to do, and it isn't easily replaced as well. At some point, he's going to have to be managed in terms of his minutes, and that might be why you're currently seeing a level of performance drop from him right now. The sheer number of games he's been involved in the last few years is ridiculous. I don't think there's anybody played more football than him in like European football. So at some point, he just needs a cuddle and a fucking nap and a Horlicks. He stays for me. And people will say, well, why is he staying over Marcus? Well, Marcus is younger. And being younger, being more in your 20s, there is probably a more of a resale value with Marcus Rashford. And spoiler alert, he isn't on my you have to sell list. But he's not in my must keep list either. I would lean towards keeping him for sure. I would very much, it would be like 90% into the keep him. But he's not in my do not sell at any cost list like them five. And neither is the likes of Garnacho or Luke Shaw or Dalot, who are all players that I would look to keep as well. I just think with Marcus there is a potential 80 to 100 million pound fee for him, depending on how he ends the season. I think will have a massive impact on that. But if PSG are losing Mbappe, United are impacted by FFP. I think Marcus could be a way for United to raise significant funds. That's why he's not on my doesn't matter what money is offered. Let's leave the door open for a potential buy. Now, I've said previously that I don't think if you flipped him, you would get the requisite quality in for what you sold him for. And I believe that. But you might need to be able to do it and not quite replace like for like, but you might need to do it to sign a centre-half. So there's the door is open there if we get an offer we can't refuse. Whereas the other ones, I would refuse all offers. Now, in terms of the ones that I would sell, I don't think there's any shocks on this list whatsoever. And the first one is Sancho. It's been an absolute shitstorm the last 12 months, let's call it, 15 months. There is no excuse for his behaviour this season. I think the manager tried everything he could do with him, and it just hasn't worked. And you can't even just say, oh, well, look how he's doing in Dortmund. Yeah, look how he's doing in Dortmund. So what's happened? He's been terrible. He had a good first game, and now what? I think people are realising Jadon Sancho is the person responsible for how Jadon Sancho's career has gone to date. Which is right. How much you will get for him? I have no idea. Theoretically, because of the size of his contract, it should be a large contract, but also because of the size of his contract means that someone's going to have to offer him significant wages. And I think United will probably want to just draw a line under it and probably take a massive hit on the transfer fee because of how much he's on as wages. Again, United need to clear the decks of the nonsense that happened before. Sancho is part of the nonsense that happened before. Number 2, Maguire. Now, I think we've known for a long time that he isn't Manchester United first team, first choice quality. This season, I think he's actually gone and convinced people that he might be. He had a few decent games. Undeniably decent, just decent games. So I think now is the time that you actually cash in. His stock is riding the highest it will be for a while. Which means that United might get good value for him. He isn't going to start. Ten Hag clearly decides other players are ahead of him in the pecking order. And I think United need to move on from another mistake of the Woodward era. So I would cash in and see what you can get for him. Next up would be Scott McTominay. Now, he's featured in 30 games for us this season, and he scored some seriously important goals. And I think that says everything about where we're at. And at the same time, that means that there's also probably some value in Scott. So I would probably move him on. But he's the one on this list that if there wasn't good value coming in for, I wouldn't be bothered about keeping him, because I get the impression that he understands his role within the team, and understanding your role in the team is quite important, because if he's not going to play, I don't think he causes a fuss. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he causes a fuss. So I could easily see him being kept around as a squad player, but then I have to question what purpose, because he is not a midfielder and he is not a striker. So you play him up front because he's sort of big and physical and will put himself around, but there's better strikers to do that are specialist in doing that. And if you want to keep him as a midfielder, but you can't trust him to play in the 6, where are you bringing him on to play? So despite the fact he's done well this year, I don't see where he fits into the plans going forward. So I would try and cash in on the good season that he's had. Next up would be Casemiro. And I could say this is controversial, but some people won't think it is, and some probably do think it is. He's been awful this season. And he's on substantial wages. He did wonders for us in that first season, but this year it has just really turned, and it's not the sort of age of a player where you think he's going to turn it around. I also don't know what the motivation is with Casemiro to be able to turn it around. And I'd like to remember the positives of a player that came and genuinely reminded me of Roy Keane in a United shirt, just doing the simple stuff correct. But that was last season, and this season it's not been the case. 70 million for him with, big boy salary has been problematic for us, with FFP breathing down our neck, I think. So I would shake his hand and say, do you know what? Wish we'd have met earlier. Same with Zlatan. Wish we'd have met a lot earlier, because character, can't fault it. Genuine winner. Saw some absolute quality from you. Wrong place, wrong time. Right player, right club, but the wrong place and wrong time. And finally, Antony. And this one's going to be the difficult one for Ten Hag to reason with, I think. But I also think for Ten Hag to succeed, Antony must go. Which is going to take a lot of acknowledgement from the coaching staff and the scout department that they fucked this one up. He was signed for way too much money. And he might have had half a chance if he hadn't had the price tag around him. The price tag demanded he starts week in, week out. That's just a fact of the way football is. But his ability and his performances did not. The problem is, he's had some off-the-field issues which appear to be resolved. The on-field performance plus the off-field stuff, who's going to pay that for him? And, are we ignoring the fact that the off-field stuff might have impacted performance? It's certainly viable that it could have done, right? If Antony is to succeed at United, he needs a hell of a lot more time, and he needs to do a hell of a lot more than he is doing when he gets onto the pitch right now. And I don't think either of those two things are likely to happen. So I would, if I'm Ten Hag, I say, okay, fine, let's cut the losses and let's bring somebody in that's going to actually do something. Because the longer Antony puts on the performances that don't meet the expectations, the more it will be used as a stick to beat Erik Ten Hag with. Like no other manager's ever had a mistake with a transfer. But this is the one that I think he's dragging down Erik Ten Hag. And I think for him to have any chance of succeeding, I think he needs to recognise what's happened with Antony and then let him go. And then the must-buys. So, listen, I do scout reports all the time, and they're all viable options in terms of what we can bring in. But I'm going to pick 3 players. I'm going to do a winger, I'm going to do a left back, and I'm going to do a midfielder. And that midfielder, which might be the most important out of these, is João Neves. He's a tempo-setting midfielder that, even though he's very young, doesn't shy away from doing the dirty work and getting the job done. He carries the ball well, and I think he'd be an excellent replacement for Casemiro. And the defensive actions that he puts up rank amongst some of the best midfielders in Europe. He's supposedly on United's list, so it's not necessarily unrealistic. It is Benfica, and you know Benfica will party, but you got to pay, right? I think it might be worth having him as our marquee signing, though. I mean, we've done a scout report on him before, but we'll do another one because I think the links appear real with him this time. So I'm going to put him on. There you go. That's the must-buy. Him and Kobe Mainoo could be a partnership for the ages. We will see. Now, I've done a scout report on a left-back this week already, but I'm going to throw another name in the mix, and that's Miguel Gutierrez. Now, he has stood out for his huge performances in a Girona shirt. Part of the reason why they're flying as high as they are in La Liga this year. Former Real Madrid boy, so he's had a good academy grounding before making the move. He's only 22, but it feels like the right opportunity to bring in a player that has got real technical quality. This season, he hasn't really delivered like a ton of goals or assists from fullback, but the defensive contribution and the technical quality on the ball have been absolutely undeniable. Now, is there an issue with buying from City Football Group? Maybe, right? Maybe. So this one might be a little bit of a wild card option because I think if City smell what United are cooking, they might be like, no. They might also want to actually play the FFP game properly and actually get money in that they didn't just cook up in an email somewhere. So maybe they do it properly for once, allegedly. But I think it would be more problematic than if it wasn't Girona. But either way, serious footballer and serious opportunity to bring somebody in. Otherwise, there are more left-backs out there. But I think left-back should be a position that we prioritise this year. If not him, a centre-half. But we will do scout reports or shortlists for all of these. And then finally, Michael Elise. Now, the numbers that Elise's put for Crystal Palace this season are almost screaming for him to be a must-buy. And considering the two right wingers that I've chosen to get rid of, with both Anthony and Sancho going, bringing one in return could make a very successful summer, especially if they repeat what they've done in the Premier League so far. Now, he's only played 11 games this season. A lot of people are concerned about his injury record. But in 11 games, he's got 9 goal contributions, 6 goals, 3 assists. Wake me up when one of our wingers does that this season, okay? Now, apparently he is tempted by United coming in, so there's obviously something going on here, I think. Now, whether that's just an inquiry or whether that's just agents giving the eyes, it feels like a deal that could be done. And I think he's got all the qualities that we need. He's proven he can do it in the Premier League, and I think that goes a long way. And I don't think you'd get your arse handed to you too badly on the price. But like I said, you probably need to sign a lot more. You probably need to sell a lot more. But those are the 5 I think you have to keep, 5 I think you have to sell, and 3 I think you must buy. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.